Thanks, Jason. Thanks for the intro. I'm Gil Elbaz. I'm the founder and CEO of Factual. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the next wave, what I see the next wave of mobile sharing. Of course, we always hear about what it means to share on mobile. It's human explicit sharing of photos, snapping photos and sharing, sending messages. But I think there's a wider umbrella of sharing that's going to really make this terrific impact. And it's the passive, automated sharing of sensor data from your devices. Snap. Thanks. So, mobile devices, more of them loaded with sensors. It's just a phenomenal amount of data. So if you think that data is big today, well, we're going to need a new term. Hopefully, something more creative than just bigger data. We're seeing more and more data shared. Just look this morning, we heard about Momoto. Now the photos are getting shared automatically, passively. Hopefully with your permission, but it's still in the background. So it's just more and more information, and it's a terrific opportunity. Let's look at some of the stats. Well, this is the big year where there's going to be more mobile subscriptions than people on the planet. It's pretty unbelievable. These lines are crossing in 2013. And more sensors per device. We've heard about some really interesting ones. They're getting smaller, cheaper. You can pack more of them. Phones are just about to have a typical phone will have gone from a dumb phone just 7, 8 years ago to a smartphone loaded with as many as 15 sensors and some really tremendous ones like that are measuring all sorts of biometrics right around the horizon. A third trend is using apps. People are using more apps, and maybe more importantly, people are permissively sharing more and more of their sensor data with these apps. Collectively, we share data with hundreds and thousands of these apps. You put these trends together, and you get a tremendous multiplicative effect. These three trends, the amount of data that is just exploding, and there's just a tremendous opportunity to understand the context. So how much data is this? Well, I had to look it up. I used to know these numbers by heart as a kid, but 10 to the 21st, we're going to hit, in a year or two, we're going to hit a zettabyte of IP data going across the internets. And increasingly, this is Mary Meeker's slide, increasingly, this data is going over mobile networks, so it's already at 20%. Pretty soon, it's going to be the lion's share of internet data is over mobile. All of that data, a lot of it raw data in company silos. Companies are tracking consumers, businesses, web traffic, web logs, increasingly sensor data, biometrics. You can't interpret all by yourself. You need help, as with all things. And it turns out that there's a dramatic new opportunity for companies that have established companies that have been around and a whole wave of new companies to help augment the data that you're storing, zettabytes, well, at least petabytes of data that you're storing, and to make sense of it, to find new user insights, to more deeply understand your user. And I think that's the name of the game, is to understand the user. So I want to narrow in and talk a little bit about location data. So of course, location data is data that is tracked by the GPS sensor. There's other ways to triangulate from Wi-Fi and GSM. And it's becoming the norm. More and more people are sharing location willingly with apps, and these apps are collecting this data. They're stored as these lat long pairs. There's so much you can do with it. There's so much potential, but we're finding out that a lot of companies, well, you can't excel and have expertise in every data type. And so oftentimes that's not used at all. Sometimes you're just using it to map to country and to localize your app. There's so much more you can do. So first of all, what we do at Factual is you can establish the context at a point in time. So you know the user's lat long. Well, what are they doing now? Where are they? Are they at a social bar scene? Are they at a big stadium watching a live event? Are they at a quiet office or at home with their family? Well, take this information and you can use it to better understand the user. You can personalize your app. You can target, contextualize content or ads. Really, it's limitless, the kinds of things you can do. Take it a step further. I think even more interesting than just understanding the context at a point in time is looking at a series of data points. In our case, we're really focused on this location data, and to really understand the user based on their historical trends of how they move around. In fact, we have statistical approaches that can infer, based on location, that we can infer demographic information like gender and age and income level. Also geographic segments, like areas they live, where they travel, where they vacation, how often do they travel. And also tastes and behavioral, like the kinds of restaurants they like. It's just a tremendous amount of contextual information. And there's just, so imagine the kinds of things you can do with all of this. If you're a hotel chain, you might want to know if your users are currently using your app from your hotel, or is it from the competitors? You want to get as much understanding of that context. If you're a sports app, you want to understand where the user is right now. You want to understand if they're watching the game from home. And as much as possible, you want to know, well, you also want to know if they are a Warriors fan or a Clippers fan like I am. So when I'm walking around San Francisco, I know I love Google Now and the fact that it has the context of understanding from calendar where I'm going. And it can already guess ahead and see that I'm going to have to deal with traffic and give me clues as to that I have to leave this meeting early. There's so much more. I mean, LA is not known as a walking city, but if my biometric sensors could measure my cortisol stress levels, which I understand is around the corner, then it can suggest a long walk, which I like doing anyway. But in LA, you really need that push. Like let's walk. Let's actually walk to a restaurant, even though it's a mile down the street. And it just goes on and on. I was talking to, I heard from Ethan Anderson at my time yesterday. He was showing me another kind of understanding of the user is being able to give the user a chance to upload their contacts list and also their calendar and to match phone numbers with all the phone numbers that we're collecting and that we understand about the entirety of the planet and business. So it goes on and on. That's what we've been able to do at Factual. We've been able to build a global places database. We've been able to build all these new personalization tools around understanding context because we've focused for the last several years on building this global places database, managing this database on behalf of our large and thousands of smaller clients as stewards of this factual information. We take billions of signals from all over, from millions of sources and from many important partners, and we try to understand and infer factual information about these 70 million plus businesses, points of interest across 50 countries. We try to do, every day we wake up trying to make sure this information is as accurate as possible on behalf of our customer base. So no matter what information it is that as an app you're collecting, there's usually some third-party database that's going to help you. Sometimes it's as easy as a simple freemium API that can help add context. If you can't find that app, well, then there might be a window to open up the next great B2B data company, and I'm sure Jason would love to have you launch at the next launch conference in November. So thanks, Jason. Thanks for the opportunity to share about sharing.
Well done.